Good morning, everyone. This is Val. I'm the curator here at Studio 23, and we're going to get rolling here on an art project inspired by 50 artist Larry Peters, woodworker, wood craftsman. And but I've got some exciting news here at Studio 23. Number one, we are winding up entries into 50 artists of the Great Lakes Bay region. And our deadline for entries is April 23rd. So that's a very popular exhibit, and it's the one that includes the art around the city for 2 years, exposure out on the trail with the weatherized images. So I'm reaching out to an 8-county area of the Great Lakes Bay region. If you go to our website, you can click on the application for much more information, including the 8 counties included. And that's for anyone living and working in those areas and is over 18 years of age. You submit at least 2 images, no more than 4, and it is then juried by a 4-juror panel and zeroes in on 50 artists. So this is our 3rd time around with this exhibit. Now we also have some save the dates for you for our summer solstice. Everybody's looking forward to summer, and June we have a great multi-day session going on of our summer solstice. And we'll go through June 16th to June 20th. Lots of activities. We're going to have panels with folks, artists that are really engaged with social media and marketing. And we'll have a plein air event going on, and plus just workshops, lots of activities. So save those dates. We're going to start posting a lot about it in the next few days. We did it a 1-day event last year. This year we're doing a multi-day event, and we're very excited. It's part of our Studio 23 Artist Collective. And if you join Studio 23, you automatically, if you're an artist, become a member of our collective, and then we keep you informed of these activities. So think about that. Now, I'm going to get going with my project here, and I recently took a trip to Tennessee, and I was going through Kentucky and Tennessee and all of the beautiful rural scenes that I was able to come back with in my mind, and even reminded me of my own little backyard here in Midland. But I collected some images to be inspired from, and when I was traveling through Kentucky and Tennessee, of course, you're seeing lots of woodworking, you're seeing lots of craftsmen, especially when you're heading through, like, say, Berea, Kentucky. And I couldn't help but think of Larry Peters, our artist for this week. So I'm going to be inspired. I'm a 2D artist. Of course, Larry is a wonderful 3D craftsman artist with his wood turning, and you saw that video in Tara's presentation. But I'm going to be inspired by the idea of working on wood. And when I think of wood in that region between Kentucky and Tennessee, I think of weathered barn wood. So I'm going to demo here how to create a background that we can use that is very much akin to the feel of a weathered barn. So let's get rolling. So some materials here. Of course, you're going to recognize popsicle sticks. So we have just ordinary popsicle sticks that do have a little bit of a grain to them, a little bit of an interest. And I'm going to be using black background because in between, that's very important, in between each one of these planks, I want a dark background, not a white background. I want them to pop a little bit. And I'm going to be using an extra, this is in the framing industry, it's a super sticky double stick tape to put these down. And I'm going to be staining them, and Tara was using some of this last week. I'm staining them with the high flow acrylics, and this one is the iridescent silver. This particular paint has the consistency of an India ink, and it just soaks into that wood and gives you a nice even stain. So that'll be one of my colors for the barn planks, we'll call them. And I'm going to be using a neutral gray. It's a warmer gray in that same high flow consistency. And very simple. You know, I love to work with what I call paint sandwiches. So this is the first layer of the sandwich, is to color these little planks. This has already been stained with that warm gray I was talking about. Let's go ahead with my paintbrush here. This is the iridescent silver poured out onto the palette. So you kind of see that consistency and that beautiful iridescence. And I just brush it on the little plank, and it starts imparting a little bit of iridescent feel, almost like a weathered barnwood. That's the look I'm going for. So I just paint these planks. I kind of planned out my size so that it would be matted in 8 by 10. This is going to be kind of a remembrance of my trip when I'm all finished with it. So there we go. That's going to soak in. In the meantime, I'm going to tape these down. So again, I'm back to that double stick tape, which is very, very sticky. Let's get over here so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to put a little dab of that on there. It has a paper backing, and I will peel that off. You could find this tape probably through Dick Blick, or United Framing online would have this tape available. They call it ATG tape. It's super sticky. So let's see, where did I end here? I've taped these down ahead of time. Let's add another warm gray plank. Okay, pressing down. And for randomness, I'm going to repeat with another warm gray. I love the look of weathered barnwood. When I grew up in Ohio, I had my entire attic studio in the farmhouse where I lived with my parents and brother. And luckily I ended up with the attic, and it was all paneled in original 100-year-old barn wood, and I loved it. Now, here we go. This is that one I just did. Let's put a little tape on there. So basically what I'm doing in this sandwich, this is going to be what would be considered the underpainting. And I am going to be working in watercolor, but not right on top of the wood. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So there we have, whoops. Oh, I forgot to take the paper off. There we go. Take the backing paper off. And there I have my underpainting. Okay, I'm going to orientate this horizontally because I am working on landscapes. And I'm going to palette knife on some material called absorbent ground. This is a wonderful primer, as you can see here, for water media. It's an acrylic product, and sometimes it's referenced as whiteout for watercolor paper, because when you apply this ground, it has the absorbency of a watercolor paper. So I'm just randomly, very free, very loose, going to create an area where I can then paint watercolors on. Okay, and of course I'm thinking hills, I'm thinking farm roads. So very spontaneous, away we go. Now that's going to dry, and I do have one already set up here for us. So let me grab that. This would be dry by this afternoon, and I could go ahead and start working my watercolors on top of that. But let's set that aside right now. Move on to one that I have already dry. Okay. Bring back my reference photos, and I've printed them in color and black and white, because I'm not going to be using the colors that are in the color photos. I'm going to be working with a very limited palette. And the palette I'm going to work with is ultramarine blue. I'm using the core watercolor here. And the raw umber. Only 2 colors. And here is my palette. And when this dries, this palette can be reactivated with water. And you're going to see some of the beautiful gradations that you can get with just those 2 colors. So we're going to start the painting process. I'm going to set this up here. I'm going to, for this particular one, I think I'm going to concentrate on this beautiful lake scene. I'm going to eliminate the deck furniture and just concentrate on this bend in the river. Okay. And I'm working with a Winsor Newton Chinese bamboo brush. It's the only brush I'm going to use on this. Okay, so let's get my photo down here where I can see it. There we go. So like I said, I'm going to concentrate on that lake scene. So this is very, very absorbent, this absorbent ground. So I'm going to put pure water, just water, for a sky area. I'm going to put quite a bit of water because I'm going to be using my ultramarine blue just straight out as a wash. And just let that just kind of blossom as a beautiful sky. Okay. Kind of mimic the back hills there beyond the that river. This is actually it's a lake. It's Norris Lake, but it has lots of bends and curves. It reminds me a lot of a river. Okay. Let's put a little deeper sky up there. It was kind of a cloudy day. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush off, get the excess off, then back to my water. Okay, and let's think about where the water meets the sky. And again, going to go a little darker. We're going to do some kind of atmospheric hills in the background of the lake. Let's get a little bit of warmth from that raw umber for this foreground here. So it's like a little mini snapshot, a little memory of our trip. Okay. Let's take that up just a little bit. I'm practically dry brushing this darkness in. I'm going to make that lake look like which it is, sneaking back behind that this foreground. Like I said, I'm going to eliminate the lawn furniture. I don't really want that in. And I'm going to mix the raw umber and ultramarine blue together to make a lake color. So a little bit of a warmer gray here. And let's get this lake, make it darker here around the point. And then have it be lighter and lighter as we come down. So you get a multiple colors with just those two colors. You're getting a beautiful gray, you're getting a warm brown. And I like to think of the raw umber and the ultramarine blue almost as complementary colors. Let's get a little more definition here around that bend. Okay, I'm going to load my brush up with a little bit darker and start just giving the illusion of trees on that hillside. Letting my brush do the work. Okay. Working in the watercolor. And then again, for the actual lake, I don't have to do a lot of definition, but just show a little bit of the ripples, just a touch. Don't want to overdo it. And let's get a little bit out here, just a touch. Okay, I'm liking it. I'm liking the simplicity of it. And then I can add a matte to it and come up with a beautiful memento from my vacation that I can share with my sister. And I have another one of the viewpoints right here that is all finished and dry and ready to go. And this was a scene out in the Tennessee countryside. Okay, where I have added some of the architecture and that sort of thing. So it's just a way of thinking about your underpainting, putting a ground on top, doing watercolor on top, kind of in a free-form way, and coming up with a different creative way to capture memories from vacations. So I hope you all enjoyed that. And just if you have any questions, just put them in comments. We'll get back to you. So thank you. And everybody have a great weekend. And thank you, Larry, for sharing your love of wood and your craftsmanship. It was very inspiring as I traveled through the hills of that craft country down there. Take care, everybody. Bye now.